if we sign an agreement that just says, here's our agreement. I mean, I want to protect these interests for the creditors. That's what I care about. And I don't want to steamroll anybody else that was there. So we sign an agreement that's, hey, we realize that, you know, we can't, you know, that assigning these, there's some dangers in that. So we agree to list it, to do everything in our power to work with whoever is trying to liquidate this and those other partners to get it done. And we've got a certain amount of time to try to get that done. And at that point, if it isn't done, then we sign it, whether it says, you know, whether the LLC agreement says we can or not.
Mark, I think that's a good idea. Look, our if we can handle it in one of these other ways that we propose, we've given the lawyers a bunch of ideas and said, tell us, what do you want? Do you want to take all the risk? Do you want to do this? Have we mitigated the risk? If we go out here, we mitigated the risk, and have we created additional risk? The creditors perceive that if they have to rely upon the principals, that they're taking a risk. I know that that's not your perception, but that's their perception.
But at the end of a certain period of time,
I'm not saying your idea is not a good idea. You're trying to argue with me. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just trying to say, I'm saying, I agree it's a problem. We're trying to figure out a way.
I'm trying to give them control with the idea of, like, hey, if we're not cooperating, sooner, bam, we have to do this anyway. I mean, that's the ultimate result if we can't get the thing done.
I understand, and I'm not, but it's legally, if they have to depend upon an agreement, an executory contract that causes you to do that, that may or may not be sufficient in their minds.
Do you tell them that they're risking this if we assume?
Absolutely, we've told them, and not only that, your attorneys have told them, and everybody's told them. I mean, but that doesn't mean that.
Let me just ask a question. Is it necessarily an all or nothing next week type of thing? I mean, what there is, call it low hanging fruit. That is simple ownership, nothing but inland debt on it. Let's move that over there. I'm going to do that tomorrow. That's easy. And then you've got some of these that have complexity that maybe in doing some of the things that Mark's saying that could be violating the operating agreement actually takes value away from that particular asset because now you have an uncooperative partner. So we take what we can and we move it all into this trust. The only reason we wouldn't put anything in the trust immediately is because we think that there's potentially higher value for those assets by working it through in a different way, shape, or form. Maybe it's naming Obsidian or whoever as the manager with full rights to operate that property of that particular LLC. And maybe that's the case with Smith Brothers or something like that. So you move what you can into the trust. You give the trustee control over the other ones, perhaps in a different way that doesn't include a transfer. But you communicate to the creditors. Here's why. We think that there's an extra $100,000 or $150,000 by not going through this path that could cause people to have harm.
I understand. They really do perceive the issue. I mean, they really perceive the issue. I guarantee you that they're focused on it. They just may have a different conclusion as to how to get there. But we've raised the issue. I've raised with them, please come back to me with 3 ideas. I gave them 3 ideas. I said, which of these 3? I give them Mark's idea. I mean, I'm happy to give them any.
I've got to go with a client. I'll be back. With luck, you won't still be talking when I get there.
What if
it just seems to me this you get Susan Ford, you get all the parties in one room and go, let's resolve this thing. Let's move forward. Because all I hear is there's this communication thing going on and everybody says, well, this person did this and whatever. I can't sort it out. We're the only ones that aren't in the middle of the communication. And then they ask us to bless all these things and, are you good with this and everything? Well, how can we be good with anything that we're not privy to anything? I mean, so, it seems like you know, I don't know how quickly we could do that, but, you know, and just, you know, our point is, tell all the attorneys, quit arguing about this stuff. What's a practical solution that works for everybody that we can present? I mean, that's what we should have done a long time ago, and while all this arguing's going on around us that we don't understand.
Okay, well, but the problem is we are where we are today. If we all could go back to 2020 hindsight 2 months ago, we might all have done something very differently, who knows? But we are where we are today. And today, there's an order entered for the appointment of a Chapter 11 trustee.